All right, dude, we are live. This is LSU Odyssey welcoming in here today's special guest, Logan Graffia from Sports Etouffe'S. Everybody, I think most of the people who watch our stuff know of you at least in some degree. But if they don't, for viewers who are unaware of you from before, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Logan. And thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me online. And if people don't know who I am, I'm Logan Graffia. I have well, I'm in the New Orleans media. Uh, like to cover the Saints, Pelicans. Love talking about all things NFL, NBA. I love LSU. I cover the Tigers from my side of the water over here from time to time. And all in all, you can catch me on Sports A2F when it makes its return, whenever that'll be, hopefully soon. So that's all you really need to know about me. I'm just a huge sports nerd and encyclopedia.
So why is Sports Etouffee on hiatus? What's going on there? Why is it not continuing? Because I see your YouTube channel, and let's show the link to everybody right here. Right there, if you go to youtube.com at Logan Graffia 57, literally, if you just type in Sports Etouffee, it takes you right to it. Like, it's perfect. It's a perfect
Absolutely.
thing. But
Yes.
Logan, subscribe, everybody. Subscribe to that channel. And if you don't mind, subscribe to ours as well. Damn it.
I
Logan,
agree.
why did you say there's a hiatus?
So I kind of been having some stuff going on. Have not really been in the greatest of places. I'm trying to get myself out of a funk, in a manner of speaking. A lot of personal things have happened behind closed doors that I'd rather not talk about publicly. I mean, if you've seen my Twitter, I've been kind of taking a break from social media, blacked it all out, posted a post like I think 6 or 7 days ago about the situation that happened, and just been, like I said, been trying to get myself out of a funk. I haven't felt like myself, and I didn't want to record sports étouffée and kind of look gloomy as I'm recording it. I want to, when I come back, I want to be back to being myself and happy go lucky. And when I deliver, like, the Saints analysis, Pelicans analysis, LSU analysis, what may be, I want it to be like happy, positive light type of thing.
Oh, I mean, don't worry about it, man. I mean, I think everybody has stuff to go on. Everybody has stretches of time where things aren't working out, where things are in suspended animation and all that. But it's knowing your talent, knowing your pedigree, it's going to work out. But Logan, starting for something that worked out great for LSU actually was this last draft. Logan, what was your impressions of the overall 2024 NFL draft for you from an LSU fan's perspective, from an LSU perspective?
From an LSU perspective, the one thing that surprised me the most was how many LSU players got drafted by the Jaguars, especially on the defensive side of the ball, considering not many of those players were a huge fan of Matt House, and now Matt House is on the Jacksonville Jaguars staff. So that's going to be
Only
interesting.
linebackers coach, only and not even like total linebackers coach, but just inside linebackers coach. So this guy doesn't make any decisions.
He's inside the building, no cross pass, but I'm sure they still don't like him from this time at LSU. But I'm sure that, I mean, he must have told Doug Peterson something. And then moving down the line, you got Jaden Daniels going number 2 overall to the Washington Commanders, who I now know that's your favorite NFL team, which I'm happy for you because that's the team I actually wanted him to go to. If he was going in the top 3 anyway. So
Yes.
I think that's a perfect fit. Dan Quinn, I think, is going to be a great coach for them. You got Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. I liked his work with Caleb Williams. I liked his work with Kyler Murray. Some people are not great generals. They're great, lieutenants in a manner of speaking. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury was a great general, meaning head coach. He's a great lieutenant as like a position coach, offensive coordinator. And I think the system and style that he runs is similar to what Jaden ran under Mike Denbrock and Joe Sloan at
It's
LSU.
perfect. It's perfect for
It's
Jaden. It's
perfect.
perfect. But I do not like the Dan Quinn hire from Washington. I think it was a terrible hire. This guy is a proven choke artist. This guy is a proven he's a fraud. He's an NFL fraud, in my opinion, who's literally his career was made by those great Seattle defensive players. He was exposed in Atlanta. I understand he took that team to a Super Bowl. He took that team to NFC title games and stuff. I understand that. Dan Quinn, for his pedigree and all that, I don't feel he is what Washington needed at this juncture, but whatever, it's done. Can't make a decision there. The thing that I thought was awesome was hiring Cliff Kingsbury. Fantastic hire. Once they hired Cliff Kingsbury, and I saw RG3's relationship with Jaden Daniels throughout the season, because RG3 was covering a lot of LSU games, if you remember. During that time, Logan, I just had a feeling Washington are going to draft Jaden Daniels. Caleb Williams, the number one hype is there. He's going to go number one overall, and who cares? Because we are going to be the beneficiaries of that with Jaden falling to number two. And I just think it's like you said, it's the perfect pick with Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator. And what's interesting is there's a lot of people who, Jaden Daniels, he's too skinny. Jaden Daniels, he's too this, he's too that. What do you think is the biggest weakness in Jaden Daniels' game that could prevent him from being a successful NFL quarterback?
The one thing I think that many people have talked about is he kind of takes on the big hits. He doesn't shy away from them, which I don't mind, but he's not Cam Newton. Cam Newton used to truck people. And we said this about Joe Burrow, too, when he was coming out. You got to learn how to slide. I know you want to get the extra yardage. And Jaden can do that because he has 4.2, 4.3 speed.
Yes.
But we've seen him take unnecessary blows to his body, which you don't want to see him do in the NFL, because the difference between the college game and the NFL game is drastically people are stronger, people are faster. Like, you take one hit from, like, one of these linebackers in the NFL, like, say, at the Mario Davis or Fred Warner, you're going to get knocked out if you don't protect yourself. So the one thing I think Jay would have to do is, it's okay to get the extra yards, but go out of bounds, slide, learn how to slide. And I think that's probably the only weakness I see, because, I mean, he has great arm strength. He has great accuracy, short, medium, deep, all the route tree he's got down. And the improvements that I've seen him take over the years, following him since his freshman year, I would just say it just needs to learn how to slide, and that's probably the only weakness that I see.
I agree, and I think even more than like sliding, I think it's just like total protection for himself, because sliding, he's so fast. I can see him sliding himself into a leg injury because he's so fast that it's hard for other players to judge when they're going to make that hit. So he's always going to get hit at a kind of weird time. A guy's, I'm going to go hit Jaden right here in the upper chest. You don't think about that type of stuff. You just do it, on the field. That happens. But Jaden is so fast that he's over here now, and you're hitting him in like the side of the ribs. You know what I'm saying? Like, so he's getting hit in all these random places, all these weird, really difficult, really painful spots, as we saw against Missouri. His pain tolerance is incredible. His threshold for toughness and getting through these type of injuries is really unquestioned. When you're looking at him and Joe Burrow in LSU history, it's like those two guys literally delivered Heisman-winning seasons, and in Joe Burrow's case, a national championship and a perfect season, while taking some brutal, vicious shots. That James Skalski helmet to the ribcage shot that Joe Burrow took to throw that touchdown to Thad Moss in that title game. Logan, my God, you wondered if Joe could finish the game, and luckily, if it turned out the way that say Joe couldn't have finished the game and Miles Brennan came out, it wouldn't have mattered, because Miles Brennan wouldn't have needed to score a point. We would have still beaten Clemson had Joe not been able to play a single snap in that second half, because we'd already scored enough. So I sorry, I kind of got on a nerd tangent there, but just the whole there's a lot of Burrow comparisons with Jaden Daniels, just being an LSU Heisman winner. being able to have all that toughness, being able to put up the crazy numbers, the all-time statistics, the records that he's broken, all of that stuff. What has surprised you the most about Jaden Daniels' evolution over the last 2 seasons at LSU?
The way he has improved his accuracy, and also just to go out there and just do it. It seemed like he was kind of conservative when he first got to LSU. That's probably dating back to his Arizona State days when he played for Herm Edwards, et cetera, et cetera. And just the leaps and the work that you've seen him put in, it was night and day. Like I said, I followed his whole entire college career from his freshman year when he was 18 to now him being drafted 23 years old, Heisman Trophy winner. And the one thing that he's improved on is definitely, I think, deep ball accuracy. That's the one thing I can say. The short and medium game has always been there, but also able to take risks, because you've seen his first year at LSU, he kind of was a little bit timid to throw it into traffic, because you see his low interception rate. He has a low interception rate, but he was kind of scared to take chances. And then you see his last year, his Heisman Trophy year, took all the chances in the world. That's the work that he's putting in, and the hours that you heard him and Sherm was doing. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, as the quote that I heard Jaden and even Sherman say as well. So the guy put in the hours and the work, and you can just see it, and that's why he just jumped off the page. And I remember telling everybody, I said, his senior year, he is going to be in the Heisman Trophy contention, and I'm happy that he proved me right, because like I said, I've been a fan for a while.
Yeah, that's the thing about Jaden Daniels is he would show incredible accuracy, incredible arm strength, poise in the pocket, whatever. He would show it in 2022, but frankly, there's a lot of plays he gave up on just because he did not trust the offensive line completely, didn't trust the receivers completely, and he had reason not to. He had reason to have those concerns, and he bailed out on a lot of plays where maybe a lot of other quarterbacks get hurt on because they feel they can still make the throw. Jaden Daniels already 15 yards up the field. And so that's really, to me, the biggest thing that he's got. What we already discussed before, biggest thing he's got to work on is really protecting himself, because he's such an asset. He could 10.7 yards per play last year. Ridiculous. He's such an asset. Protect yourself. And then you've seen this growth. You've seen the way he's been able to go from being really conservative throwing the ball, way too conservative, where it's like, how can you miss that route down there, Jaden? And I understood why he was missing those routes. I understood why he wasn't even aware of some of those plays that were open downfield, because all of the madness that was going around by his legs, all of the madness that was going around, the edges, and worrying about those two freshman tackles and the interior guys. Can they hold it together? And also a lack of pass protection too from the running back position. So Jaden Daniels had a lot of attrition that 2022 season. You saw that growth in 2023, and what's the number one thing you want to see when a guy who is that talented, and you see all the pieces, all the weapons are kind of aligning and taking shape around him? What is the number one thing you want to see? You want to see them take advantage of it. You want to see Jaden Daniels rack up the stats, because he should. You want to see people like that put up a ton of plays, put up a ton of numbers, I should say, sorry, but a ton of big plays. And he went even beyond that. 9 touchdowns or whatever it was, 8 touchdowns against Georgia State, 6 or 7 against Florida. Ridiculous numbers, ridiculous statistics. 600 total yards against Florida, 630 or whatever it was. Outrageous. And just I'm really excited as a Washington fan, man, because I think we're putting in the pieces to protect him. And I really love Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. I think it's gonna work perfectly for both sides there.
I absolutely agree. I know you necessarily don't like the Dan Quinn hire, but in my opinion, I think okay, defensive minded. He's going to run the defense, and I mean Dallas's defense over the last few years has been promising. Let it be was on hold. They have Michael Parsons, but they still have a lot of defensive pieces. But I like the way that they're building around him. I love how they have a general manager who knows what he's doing. Adam Peters seems like he's going to be a great general manager coming from San Francisco. Then the ownership group, I mean, Josh Harris, owner of the 76ers, then you have part owner Magic Johnson. I mean, let's be honest, Magic Johnson being a part of that ownership group is pretty kind of cool. And then Bob Myers, who's a former general manager of the Golden State Warriors, is going to be kind of stepping in, helping out, doing whatever. I can't remember his position, but the coaching staff, I liked all the hires, and then the draft that the Commanders had, I am a fan of. They drafted some linemen. They already have Jahan Dotson, Scary Terry, and I'm sure they're going to bring in even more weapons to put around Jade. And I mean, he's set up for success. It's just all about him going out to do it like he did this past year.
Yeah, and there'll probably be some growth, growing pains, of course, because it's Washington, and Washington are coming out of the mire of 20 plus years with a terrible owner. We're coming out of 20 plus years with a disastrous, toxic culture. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be issues. But at the same time, I feel like the franchise has already gotten through those mistakes and issues the last few years of the Ron Rivera era. So I'm excited as a Washington fan. I feel like had Washington not selected Jaden Daniels, I'm turning in my Washington card. Like this is embarrassing. But man, next question I got to ask you. Malik Neighbors is going to be facing off against Jaden Daniels at least at a minimum twice a season this next year, and for the foreseeable future as a member of the New York Giants, going 6th overall. There's been some attacks against Malik Neighbors in the media. There's been questions of vague concerns, all this bull crap about his character and all this stuff. It didn't seem to matter. He went 6th overall. And football people seem to not even talk about that stuff. How did you see or view that kind of stuff? Some of the online attacks. It wasn't just from like online media guys, wannabes in their underwear in their mom's basement. It was established media guys in their underwear in their mom's basement.
Well, if there's one thing that I've learned since being in the business for a while now, is that there's always there is bad apples out there, and you don't want to have a few bad apples ruin the whole apple tree, in a manner of speaking. So when all those stories came out, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking they're just trying to dig, and they're not finding anything. So let's make up a story because I have nothing. I need to put something out there, and let's just put this out there and just hope it sticks. And people sometimes eat it up, or not even sometimes. People a lot of times eat a lot of that stuff up, and it's sad to see that we are living in a fake news era. And I mean, and it's sad to see that there's good people, there's great reporters and beat writers and media members out there. And I can honestly say, during my time of covering LSU and Malik Neighbors' time being at LSU, I have not heard one negative thing about Malik Neighbors. The only thing that I heard about Malik Neighbors was when him and Jaden was in practice and he was trying to get Jaden to throw him the ball even in traffic, just to try to get Jaden to stop being so conservative, and it worked, and now they're the closest of friends. So, yeah. Like I said, a few bad apples should not ruin the whole apple tree, but sometimes it does because it kind of just rains all down, and it's sad to see.
What's obviously going down is the gun charge that he had, the gun charge that was dismissed, and these people discovering the gun charge, 8, 9 months, even a year after it happened or after we knew about it, and acting like they found, the Watergate scandals, the secret Watergate scandal tapes or something in Nixon's White House. It's just this ridiculous thing where they think it's this gun charge, and it was like this was actually quite a nothing burger of an instance, which is quite obvious when he's still drafted 6th overall by the team that was going to draft him in the first place. Consensus was. I thought the Chargers might steal him because of his high stock and be like, we have to just go get Justin Herbert this piece right here. But instead, they went with offensive lineman. They went with Joe Alt, and they left Malik Neighbors for the Giants. Do you think Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors could be a potential like Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson situation in Minnesota, where like in New York, where you've got a quarterback who he can be really damn good. He can beat almost any damn team on his day. But then there's games where it's like, what is this guy doing? How is this guy on an NFL roster with Daniel Jones? Very mixed results. How do you think Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones would get on?
Well, I would kind of hope they would get along well and develop chemistry fast because.
Well, I'm not meaning get along. I meant get on.
So they don't technically, in my personal view, they don't have a true first or wide receiver 1 target for the New York Giants. Malik Neighbors can be that guy. They haven't really had one of those number 1 guys since kind of Odell Beckham left, which is purely just my opinion. And Daniel Jones does have the potential. He does. He has all the talent. I mean, would I have taken him first round when he came out? No, but that's not meaning that I wouldn't have taken him second or third round. But it is what it is now. And Brian Daboll's offense is, to me, a kind of a mixture of, the Buffalo offense and what he ran at Alabama when he was there. Daniel Jones has the potential to help Malik Neighbors succeed. Neighbors can only help Daniel Jones. He can't hurt him unless Neighbors just drops every pass thrown his way. Then yes, that can hurt Daniel Jones, but
never gonna happen.
I don't see Neighbors having one of those drop offs where he just becomes a bust and doesn't drop any pass thrown his way. So I kind of think Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors could be, like you said, maybe a Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, but maybe even better. I mean, maybe
that would be fine, because here's the thing. Justin Jefferson broke all the rookie records. He broke all these records, of course, Pro Bowls, all that stuff. But as far as winning games, which is the ultimate goal, you always knew Kirk Cousins was going to leave Justin Jefferson and that offense needing more and wanting for more. And so I'm just wondering how this situation is going to work out in New York. They're going to have to play Jaden Daniels and Washington twice a season. They're going to have to play the Eagles. Just barely went to the Super Bowl twice a season. Always in the playoffs. The Eagles, even with, they still hosted a playoff game after losing how many games straight this last season? They lost 7, 8 in a row and still made the playoffs. The Eagles, that is a team that is going to be good for a while there. They have drafted beautifully, the Eagles. So, I mean, the NFC East is stacked. It's going to be a very entertaining division. It hasn't been that way for quite some time. Dallas is always a dramatic shit show. It's always fun to see them burn. So, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting division, especially with a lot of LSU talent. I mean, you even got Damone Clark starting at linebacker for the Cowboys now. So there's a lot of LSU and Louisiana talent overall. CeeDee Lamb, receiver for the Cowboys. You just got a lot of LSU and Louisiana talent in the NFC East. That's kind of traditionally been that way, though. But my man, Jacksonville, as you said earlier, selected 3 LSU players, maybe even 4 or 5. Maybe they secretly signed 7 or 8 more because they just seem to love LSU players. They even drafted Calebon Chason in the 2020 draft in the first round. They just there's something about LSU players with them. They had DJ Chark for a while, I believe, too. So, I mean, what do you think with Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor Lawrence together? What kind of a partnership could that be in the NFL?
That could be an incredible partnership. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is an elite talent. There's been people that even say that he's a generational talent, which I halfway agree. Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. could be one of those, if you turn the clock back, it could be like a Brunell, Jimmy Smith, or a Brunell and Keenan McCardell type of Jacksonville Jaguars type of offense these days. Because, I mean, like I said, don't want to keep repeating myself, but Trevor Lawrence really is an elite quarterback, and Brian Thomas has all the talent in the world. I mean, out of high school, he was getting, Michael Thomas comparisons coming out of Walker High, and I mean, his speed is underrated. His speed doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, he's able to catch the ball in traffic. His route running is incredible, and I really think that Jaguars offense, under Doug Peterson, can only get better with Adam Brian Thomas because you already, like I said, you have Trevor Lawrence, you have Travis Etienne, you have Christian Kirk still there, and you can only get better from adding a talent like Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh yeah, sky's the limit. I really think this is a kid. He's a red zone finisher, Logan. Like he could literally score at will here in the NFL. I'm not kidding. This is a dude who I just feel is going to score 8-9 touchdowns even as a rookie, because he is just such a target. He is such you're going to want to give him that chance with the football, even if you feel he's a rookie. He's dropped maybe one or two. He hasn't ran the crispest of routes on the last route that I threw his way. You're still looking his way because he is such an impressive target, even if Trevor Lawrence has doubts about him, which would be shocking. But even at, say, the worst scenario possible, Thomas Jr. is still going to get a ridiculous amount of targets simply because of his athleticism. But if he's fantastic, which I'm betting he's going to be, especially as a red zone finisher, and he's going to be putting up those numbers with those red zone touchdowns, being that guy. And I just have a feeling, Logan, that he's going to be someone who can challenge and even overcome corners, NFL veteran corners right now, even as a rookie. Do you agree with that?
I think he could. I mean, everyone I think can and could overcome anything because he has the talent to do it. And as with all of these LSU players that's in the draft, they just have to go out and prove it and do it, which I believe they can. I really do. The other two players as well that the Jaguars drafted out of LSU, the two defensive tackles, Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson, I believe they could do it too. So as far as Brian Thomas goes, he has a tremendous ceiling. Like his ceiling is probably the roof or above the roof. And I really think he's going to be a matchup nightmare for years to come, maybe within the first 2 years of his career.
Really, I would not be shocked if he, maybe he, say, for example, he kind of learns as like the fourth or fifth option this next season. I could also be like 100% not shocked if he scored like 7, 8, 9 touchdowns this season and was an impact later as the season went on going into the playoffs for Jacksonville. Cannot underestimate what this kid can do, because it's not just that towering physique and his athleticism. It's really his speed after the catch too, his strength. This guy is just like, I think we've underrated Brian Thomas Jr. for a long time, even as I'm one of his biggest fans. I mean, ask A.D. Perkins how many articles I've written on Brian Thomas Jr. on LSUODYSSEY.com. I was covering that guy inside and out during that recruiting. I've probably written about 30-plus articles on Brian, just himself, and talked how many different times during that recruiting of, we just have to sign this guy. We have to sign this guy. In my wildest dreams, I felt like we would get 2 seasons of what we saw in 2023. I was shocked that we only got 1 season where he was able to put it all together, but it doesn't matter. I think Kayshon Boutte took away a lot of those targets where he could have developed over those years in 2022, especially because in 2022 he still scored 5 touchdowns while barely getting the ball. So Brian can do a lot with a little as well, and it's just I think there's a lot of intangibles with him that people are just not talking about. So him, Malik, both are capable of putting up crazy numbers even as rookies, and I think as the season goes on, probably Malik more than Brian will be looked to be the leader of the offense and put up more numbers. But I think you will see them both putting up ridiculous numbers as the season goes on, even as rookies. Overall, with his draft. Oh wait, no. Before I get into that, I have to ask you this question. Mason Smith, selected number 48 overall, Logan. Did you see that coming? Did you see that bet he put on himself paying off in a way that was just massive?
So, me personally, I thought he should have stayed at least one more year in school. And I think he probably could have been a first round or second round pick or even higher than where he went this year. But him betting on himself, going, like you said, 48th overall, I was surprised to see that because I'm like, okay, he has the talent, he has the size, he has the speed, he has just all the measurables and intangibles that you could possibly imagine. And but it just seems like he never could put it together at LSU. We've seen many players do this in college, sit out and then go to the draft because of eligibility issues, but that wasn't his case. It just so happened that his defensive coordinator was Matt House, who is now his inside linebackers coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's going to get to see him in defensive meetings a lot more now. He couldn't shake Matt House, which I'm sure a lot of his LSU teammates who got drafted with him wish they could have done. So him betting on himself, I'm happy that he got drafted as high as he did. I thought he would have been at least like this year a fifth round pick because in my opinion, him needing to stay like one more year in school and get coached up by Bo Davis and learn some more and just be in that defense under Blake Baker. But he bet on himself and it looks like he won. So I'm hoping when he goes to Jacksonville, he turns into the next Aaron Donald that many people thought he could be.
Man, when you make that much money on your rookie contract and you're picked 48th overall, when people were, he's gonna be a fifth, sixth round pick, and what was it? He signed a 4-year deal worth just over $8 million. He's gonna be paid $1.97 million per year. He has a $2.4 million signing bonus. Mason Smith won, especially when you're talking about a player who has dealt with a very psychologically debilitating injury. Let's don't underestimate how psychologically debilitating it would be to tear your ACL as violently as he did, celebrating, jumping in the air, celebrating. It was so innocuous that it was mentally there and in the back of his head for most of the season last year. And it made him hesitate in his gameplay. It made him slower to react on plays. And frankly, it made him just kind of a little fearful in his movement. And I probably would be too, when you're talking about how he got hurt. So to see him put together a full season where he's healthy, he goes out there for the most of the part of the season. He was suspended one game from the NCAA as well. But you see a season where he's mostly healthy. I think now, going into that NFL career, he has a chance where, what if he stays another year at LSU, everything goes well, but then he gets hurt right at the end? Was it worth the NIL money? He just made what, $8 million here? So it's he definitely won, but I want to see him succeed. And I think, the fact that he is going somewhere with, the fact that he's going somewhere where I think they're actually going to Ryan Nielsen, a defensive line coach, who is, this guy not only was at one point supposed to be LSU's defensive line coach under Coach O, could have been Mason Smith's D-line coach at LSU, but Coach O has big ties with him. He was probably in Ryan Nielsen's ear to draft him, but this is a guy who has done some magical things with some guys. I would be shocked if Ryan Nielsen can't develop Mason Smith to that next level. I mean, he's basically there. He just needs some more work, right? I think it's a perfect landing spot for him, Jordan Jefferson, both going there.
I absolutely agree, and I'm glad you brought up Ryan Nielsen. I mean, from his time here in New Orleans as the defensive line coach, we've had incredible defensive lines, and then of course he goes off and leaves, goes to Atlanta to be their co-DC. And Atlanta's defense was improved under Nielsen and a tiny bit, but his specialty is defensive line. So that's kind of a match made in heaven for Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson and whatever other LSU defensive linemen they want to go out and draft next year or sign, whatever. But him and Ryan Nielsen, I think, are going to get quite friendly and acquainted, and it was probably the perfect landing spot because Ryan Nielsen is a heck of a defensive line coach. You've heard about his resume for years, even before he got to New Orleans. Heard so many stories from even one of my good friends, Calvin, who was at a defense. He said he was at a defensive line camp one time when Nielsen was there, and he was just in awe of just like all the things that Nielsen was just coaching them up with, everything. So Nielsen and Mason Smith, I think he might unlock the full Mason Smith, and that could be something to see.
Yeah, it would be something to see. The full Mason Smith, this dude had 3 sacks in a single game from the defensive tackle position, sacking Coach Orgeron's son against McNeese. And then he got hurt a few games into that year. So, and then of course, as we know, got hurt in the first drive of 2022. So really, his momentum was just stalled right when he's about to become a juggernaut. So it's definitely going to. Mason Smith, becoming the full article, going to be epic. Logan, it was stunning for me to see Mekhi Wingo slip to the 6th round. I was stunned by that. I thought it was. I couldn't believe it. The amount of teams that had needs at defensive tackle. 14 different defensive tackles chosen before him. How do you evaluate Mekhi Wingo, and do you think that he should have slipped this far?
I was as surprised as you to see him slip that far, Lon. I thought he gets drafted 6th round, almost dang near the 7th round, and I had a 4th round grade on him personally. I mean, anyone to wear the number 18, everyone in the entire NFL knows that that's a big time thing at LSU to wear the 18, and his production, he was a very productive defensive tackle during his time at LSU when he transferred in, and all he did was just make good big plays. I mean, all he did was tackle people coming through the A gaps. He did all the dirty work for you up front in the trenches. So seeing him slip into the 6th round was very surprising, but going to a place like Detroit, Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn is the defensive coordinator, and then you also have Kelvin Shepard, who was the linebacker for LSU once upon a time. And the Lions needed help at defensive line because if you ask me, all they had was, Aiden Hutchinson, and then you have others who, which is not a knock on them, but they were not Aiden Hutchinson, and I think Mekhi Wingo can fit in perfectly as a plug-and-play guy into the Detroit Lions defensive line, which I think desperately needed more in the trenches down there.
Do you think he potentially slipped to, the perfect spot?
I think, honestly, yes, because every team has needs, and the Detroit Lions, I think, needed more defensive line, not necessarily, defensive ends, because you have Aiden Hutchinson, and I'm sure it escapes me right now. I can't remember the other defensive end, but they needed a defensive tackle. I thought they should have went earlier and drafted a defensive tackle, but they didn't. They drafted Mekhi Wingo in round 6, which I think is a perfect spot for him. I really do. I mean, the Detroit Lions defense is improving each year under Aaron Glenn, and Mekhi Wingo, I think, might eventually. I think he's going to climb that depth chart fairly quickly there in Detroit, and I would be fairly surprised if he did not.
Well, and he said something very interesting. Glenn said that they're going to use Wingo off the edge a lot more, which is fantastic because this is a dude who's versatile enough to do it. His edge rushing was actually fantastic. 9 sacks over 2 seasons, mostly playing in the interior. But he could really play 0 to 5, any technique up front. And I think he's people are going to say, oh, he's undersized. That's why he dropped. Maybe that can be used to his advantage. And I think you're going to see that as well. I think you're going to see Mekhi Wingo really excel because of him dropping to Detroit. I think Dan Campbell, it's just the right culture. It just seems to fit Mekhi Wingo's personality. Anyway, man, who do you think was the biggest winner of the NFL draft from the LSU perspective?
Well, I think you're gonna probably like my answer. It has to be the Washington Commanders. I mean, Jaden Daniels. Let's be honest, number 2 overall. Thinking back to after the 2022 season, I mean, he was getting told by coaches and NFL GMs that you're probably a day 3 pick, probably a 5th round, 6th round pick, and then fast forward to now, he's the 2nd overall pick to the Washington Commanders, who I think are building something very nice there. So I think you'll see Jaden Daniels in the playoffs fairly soon, if not this. The NFC East is very. I think it's going to be a tough division, especially with the Eagles. They're tough and they're hard to defeat, even though they had that drop off at the end of the year. Then the Cowboys are always in it every year, even though they choke a lot. They're notoriously known for that. Everyone knows that. But I think, with the NFL having that extra playoff spot that they added in recent years, that I think you can see the Commanders maybe win like 7-8 games this year if Jaden performs the way that I know he can, and that we know he can. So I think the biggest winner, to answer your question, is the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels.
Thank you, mother. Thank you, brother. It's definitely going to be fun to watch Washington. I wish we would have drafted more LSU guys. Wish we would have drafted more SEC guys. But when you draft Jaden Daniels, you have the receiving core we do already. You've got a better offensive line than we have in years past since Trent Williams left. There was a few years that were pretty disastrous, kind of coming together. New ownership, of course. Number 1, no more Dan Snyder. Washington, as a Washington fan, I am absolutely excited. We've got to shout out somebody here right now. Ryan Yates, former Tiger, who just barely committed as a Cal Golden Bear, which shocked me to the teeth. Absolutely shocked the hell out of me that he went to Cal. We've got him and his father, Ryan Yates, and his dad tuning in, watching us. What is up? Cole Adams, King Cole says, Ryan Yates, great Texas Tiger. I agree, my man. Once a Tiger, always a Tiger. What's up, guys? Glad you guys are, watching, checking it out. I love it. It's crazy that Ryan Yates has left LSU. I wish him nothing but the best at Cal, though. I will be tuning in to Pac-12 football for the first time in years because of Ryan Yates' presence. So we are very excited to see these guys watching and tuning into the show. Logan, keeping in with Ryan Yates because he just left through the transfer portal. We have seen some guys transfer from LSU. Is there anyone that particularly shocked you who transferred from LSU in the last little while? We saw a lot of depth guys and some names that surprised us. Some guys who we feel could have become starters, like a Ryan Yates. Joseph Cryer, he kind of stunned me that he left, even though there was some talk about him not being physically capable for the SEC, yada, yada, yada. Whatever. We'll see about that. But we've seen a lot of these names. Jeremiah Hughes. Is there anyone that particularly shocked you, or anyone that you felt, I wish that guy hadn't left?
Well, one that, he's tuned in. Ryan Yates, I was kind of surprised, but at the same time, I understood it. Everybody wants to go play. I was a football player for a long time. I'm 27. I don't want to sound like I'm old, but everyone wants to play. No one wants to sit on the sidelines and, just think, man, I want to be out there the entire time. And then, Jeremiah Hughes, it was a deep defensive back room. Not everyone was going to get, their play time. And it's sad because everybody was so talented. Everyone was locked up. It was just an incredible room. But, there's always an odd man out, which is sad because you see these players come in, you see the recruiting process, and you fall in love with these players. and you're glad that they're here. And then now you see someone like Ryan Yates leave, and it's just sad to see. But you wish him the best. I mean, just like Jeremiah Hughes. I mean, we all wanted him here, and now that he's gone. But like I said, I was a ball player for a long time. I mean, everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to lace up their cleats. No one wants to sit on the sidelines for 4 quarters. I mean, I know I hated it. I mean, when I was only a special teams player and I hated it. So I totally get why people want to leave.
Man,
Everyone wants to go get playtime, and I totally
you
understand it,
just
and I
said
think they
something
will.
very interesting, Logan. That just gave me a very interesting thought. Would you rather see a guy like Ryan Yates sit there on the bench at LSU for 3 years with a coach that maybe doesn't believe in him, or you want to see him go to somewhere like Cal and actually show out and play and be dominant? Like a guy like Jack Besh, he could have, stayed at LSU, but right now at TCU, he's in a position where he's a starter and he looks like he's going to be the focal point of their offense this year.
So, from my past, excuse me, my past experiences, like I never played college ball. I played semi-pro, and from my experience, I mean, you want to go where you're wanted and where you're going to play. And even though he might have sat at LSU, that doesn't necessarily mean the coach doesn't like you or doesn't love you. It's just he wants to put his best 11 out there that he feels personally is the best. And if it's not you, then you feel like mentally, what else can I do? Because I don't know what else I can do. I'm giving 110%. Maybe I should leave, and 9 out of 10 times people do, and then they elongate their career. Like you said, Jack Besh goes off to TCU and gets more play time. And I mean, I expect Ryan Yates to go to Cal Berkeley and get more play time as well. I think he's going to be plug and play. So I'd rather see people go off and be successful elsewhere if they're not getting play time at LSU. I mean, that's how I've always seen it. Go where you're wanted and get play time. I mean, it just makes the most sense in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's sad to see these guys go, but it's would we rather see them kind of unhappy on the sidelines, on the bench, or able to play here and there, because that's the thing is some of these guys, you feel like Orion Yates, in my opinion, I feel like he could have been a starter at some point here at LSU, but would he want to wait another year for that chance behind Major Burns and those type of guys? It's just. I think the transfer portal is a great thing because of stuff like that, because of scenarios like that, situations, and I'm LSU are expected not to lose anyone else in the portal for this window, but yeah, it's very interesting. LSU's lost some depth. We're now at 82 scholarships total, but there is a big dearth of defensive tackle talent on this team. LSU needs defensive tackle talent like crazy. Simeon Barrow, who just barely visited LSU, former Michigan State defensive tackle who was an absolute freight train of hate pain there up in Lansing. He has entered the portal. He has visited LSU now. He's gone to Miami and places like that. We entered a crystal ball pick for LSU to sign Simeon Barrow almost a week ago. We did it for subscribers only. We've let everyone know when we put in this crystal ball pick. When he made the Miami visit, public, that he was going to Miami, every LSU fan freaked out online. We're going to lose him. We're going to lose him. Oh, he's going to Miami. Which I just couldn't believe how chicken little that is to think Miami can beat us to a defensive tackle. If that's the mindset, that's embarrassing. But anyway, we've predicted that Simeon Barrow's coming to LSU. We think that announcement could be happening very, very, very soon, Logan. What do you think about Simeon Barrow, if you've looked into him at all, and what do you think about LSU and what their needs are at defensive tackle and how they can go about addressing that?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to address it because I think it's the number one need out of spring into the summer and even to the fall. Even Brian Kelly has said that the one position that his team needs is defensive tackle, and someone like Barrow is literally just going to be a first-string player. I mean, his presence is going to be known as soon as he walks into that room. I mean, then you have someone like CJ. I think his name's CJ West out of Kent State. I've heard rumblings of him signing with us fairly soon too. I'm hoping I'm hearing correctly. I mean, all the defensive tackles that's out there and being crystal ball to us, I can only be happy because I mean you're filling a weak spot on this team. I think someone like Barrow, I think, is going to make a huge difference on the defensive front. Because I mean, in spring it was okay, but someone like that his presence is needed. So him coming in hopefully soon, fingers crossed, which I think he will be. Uh, I think it can really bolster the defensive line.
Absolutely, you'd bolster the defensive line. This is a dude who's put up pressures, he's racked up sacks, he's racked up TFLs from the defensive tackle position, and he has mostly played on the in interior, the spot we need the most. And so you potentially have a fantastic pass rushing defensive tackle option, a pass situation defensive tackle opposite Jacobian Guillory, who's fantastic against the run. You potentially have a partnership there that could take LSU very far here, but I'm worried about what's behind them. You've got Jalen Lee, a guy who recovered a fumble and then didn't do much else last year. You've got some young freshmen, Dominic McKinley, 5-star coming in. You really don't have much at defensive tackle aside from Jacobian Guillory and a few other guys. What's the edges look really promising though. The edges look fantastic for me. You got Swinson, Womack, Savion Jones. Parashon is another interior guy who he's been practicing with the edge guys, but he's mostly a DE interior the way I see him as well. You can put him on the inside more. He's got more of the body for it. Gabe Relaford, though. What did you think about Gabe Relaford from the spring game? And what do you think he can do in his first season, Logan?
First season, I mean, it can only what I see in the spring game. I liked what I saw. I mean, a lot of the players that you mentioned, I liked what I saw too. But from him, sky's the limit. And I really think his first year, I don't expect him to be like super great. Like he's first round NFL talent. I expect him to just to be play his role, do his job. I expect him to be just make his presence known when he's out there.
That's the thing, man. Is I think Relaford, we're looking at like 3-4 sacks, maybe. That's kind of the numbers I'm looking at. I think he's going to get those reps. I think he's going to get those snaps that like a guy like wouldn't be getting if Matt House was there. A guy like Gabriel Relaford wouldn't be getting those snaps. But since Bo Davis is there and he's going to play the best guys, Kevin Peoples is there, he's going to play the best guys. Blake Baker oversees it all. He's going to play the best damn guys. I think you're going to see youth getting more of a shot. Deshaun Womack getting more of a shot. You play 5 snaps, you get a sack and a half without your helmet on. You're going to play a hell of a lot more under Blake Baker. Under Matt House, I guess you're not going to play much at all for some reason. I guess we found that out the hard way. With Whitweeks also leading the team in tackles as a freshman and somehow not getting playing time.
It's crazy. I really love the Blake Baker hire. He was my number 2 pick on my actual board for defensive coordinators that I wanted. I had Lance Guidry number 1, Blake Baker second, and I'm happy that we got Blake Baker. This is his dream job. He's known in the Louisiana high schools recruiting trail, so that's another plus side and upside of that. And just everything that I've heard from all these LSU beat writers that I've talked to is just it's like night and day in the spring practices and the spring game from going from Matt House to Blake Baker. I mean, he's out there wearing cleats, practicing with them. He's out there running around, energetic, all of that. That's what you want from a coach. You want a coach that cares enough to actually put cleats on, go out there and practice with you. It's incredible to see. And I expect this LSU defense to get out of the bottom hundreds of the defenses in the college football ranks and get back to maybe in the top 50s and things of that nature. Because I mean, when LSU won all those titles, they wasn't really necessarily a top 5 defense. It was in the top 50s, 40s. I mean, even 30s, I think, to my knowledge. So someone like Blake Baker, I think, is going to. It's the difference between going 9-3 with the number 1 offense in the country to okay, maybe we have the number 10 offense in the country and the number 50 defense in the country, and we have 11 wins. So I think Blake Baker is really going to be the biggest addition from this offseason.
We probably lose a second game somewhere in the postseason with a defense in the top 50. With that offense, maybe we lose to Florida State because everything was kind of embryonic at that time. Even the offense didn't have their shit together yet. No matter what people say, the offense had made mistakes and made a lot of issues that cost us the game. But also the defense were out of their mind, terrible. But at the same time, had we had the defense later in that season, we'd probably win that game because we got 2 turnovers in that first half. Deuce Chestnut with a pick, and I can't remember who else got a pick or a fumble, but we had 2 turnovers in that first half, and we made Florida State give us the ball a few times. We have that offense full on against Florida State that we did later in the year. We'd probably do boat race Florida State, outscore them. With a top 50 defense, man, last year, we're at least in that college football playoff, and I think with the teams that were there, we're beating them all. Like, are you kidding me? That's the worst Alabama team I've ever seen. We beat them if Jaden Daniels isn't knocked out of that game. If we have just an average defense, even a below average defense, we're beating that Alabama team because we're letting them get yards here and there, but we're not letting their quarterback dice us for 70 yards on a run. That type of stuff just isn't happening on even a below average defense. He ran for over 200 yards on us in that game. It's just unacceptable. And Blake Baker, I think when something goes wrong, he's going to make changes. When something happens that he doesn't accept, doesn't like, well, that's actually the word. Something that is going on that he doesn't like, he's not going to accept it anymore. He's going to say, no, we're going to go in a different direction. I wish Brian Kelly hadn't accepted Matt House's bullshit for all of last season. I really want to know why Brian Kelly never told Matt House, you must change some of these things. You have to get the coverage up to the line. You've got to have them jamming these receivers at the line of scrimmage. We got to go to man coverage. We got to stop this soft zone. We got to have the defensive lineman on the damn ball. Anything. Some of the personnel decisions that he made. We got to have weeks in the game. Some of this stuff. I'm shocked that Brian Kelly did not kind of like call his shot and be like, I'm the head coach here. You're going to do what I say at this point. I've let you do your job, but now it's over and done with. I don't think he's going to have to babysit or even question things with Blake Baker. But at the same time, I think the way Blake Baker works, the conversation will actually be possible to be had. It's going to be an ongoing communication between him and Kelly to get things better. I think you're going to see them both on the sidelines together, like looking at things, pointing things out, and freaking out together, screaming at people, hey, get the fuck over here, whatever. You're going to see that type of coaching, whereas like House is up in the booth drawing diagrams of the Da Vinci Code or whatever he's doing up there, and you're going to Brian Kelly's down there alone wondering what the hell's going on with this defense. You're going to see Baker and Kelly on the sideline together. I think that's going to make things a lot better. The communication, for one thing, is going to be better with the defensive staff. When you're talking about Baker, talking about guys that Baker's familiar with, talk about guys that maybe Kelly's a little familiar with, considering he fired all of them. But when he came in, but hires them all back: Jake Olson, Blake Baker, Corey Raymond. And, we finally get Bo Davis. So I think this is the strongest defensive staff we've had in a long time. I can't really know what to compare it to, but I think this is one of the strongest defensive staffs we've had probably since the 2011-22 season. 2011-2012 season. And I think there's a lot of pieces there, a lot of great young pieces there. And someone just posted this in the comment section that is totally worth bringing up. Ryan Yates says, I don't sleep on Kylan Jackson. My boy gonna go crazy. Here's the thing. I love what I've seen from Kylan Jackson. I love what I see from Kylan Jackson.
Me too.
Can he get on the field? Will Sage Ryan, Jordan Gilbert, Major Burns keep him off the field? That's my question.
It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting because I mean it's gonna be a really tough battle. I mean you have so much talent in that defensive back room. I mean you said a bunch of names already. It's going to be a fight all the way up until game one against USC. Whoever Brian Kelly, or I mean Blake Baker puts out there, I'm not even going to be upset with it because I mean, like I said, everybody in that room is so damn talented. And another name that no one is mentioning at all because he's been injured since the Army game is Zy Alexander, who I've known for a while because me and him went to Southeastern together. And when he transferred over, everyone already started asking me, saying, "Hey, well, can you tell me about this guy?" And I mean, I can only rave about the guy. I mean, when Zy went down last year, I was upset because I'm like, well, shoot. In my opinion, I thought he was one of the better corners that we had last season, and I think under Blake Baker and Corey Raymond this year, I think you're going to see Zy take yet another step because I mean, we've only seen him, climb up the ladder, development wise, since he's been there. But I also agree with Ryan Yates here, Kylan Jackson. I mean, such a talent. The whole defensive back room is just, I'm in awe of it, and I'm sure Corey Raymond is just salivating at the chance of working with all these young, incredible, talented players that he's got coming in.
It's just all about putting the puzzle pieces together, brother. Like the defensive secondary, I am so enamored with the names and the talents that we've got there, and the versatility too. And that was a problem last year. Where there's so many guys who could play so many different positions that I think they made the wrong moves because maybe there was a lack of experimentation. They kind of just went with one thing and went, "Oh, that works. There we go." And never changed it up, never, let's do this just to see in a practice. You've seen a lot of experimentation in this spring practices, man. You've seen people, the media are like, "Oh my God, this guy's playing left tackle. This guy's playing, like this is the big, new move." And it's like, no, actually, they were just experimenting. You've seen some weird moves going on in spring. You've seen guys play out of position. You've seen guys even cross training. So I think it's going to benefit the team. I think you've got the right staff here for LSU going into this season. But Logan, what can this team do in 2024? You might have the right staff. You might have some of the right pieces here and there. But where can Garrett Nussmeier take this team? That's how I should phrase the question, because really the offensive line is going to be big for this team. The defense is going to have, be pivotal as well, but I think the defense is going to be far more improved, at least going to be in that top 70 place. So really, Garrett Nussmeier and this offense are going to decide where LSU goes this season. I really think, defensive questions, of course, there's defensive questions are going to be there. The depth is going to be a problem, but if we can outscore people like we did anywhere near last year, is that possible?
I think it really is possible. I mean, like we've mentioned throughout the show, I mean, Blake Baker's presence. I mean, Blake Baker being the defensive coordinator and that defensive change that he's bringing is going to be good. And the one thing I wanted to see from Garrett Nussmeier, because, I mean, everyone was all in the Nuss bus, when Jaden transferred over, oh, it's Nuss, oh, it's Miles Brennan. But, I was always of the belief, I think Nuss needs to wait a couple more years. I want to see him, develop. And now I'm happy from what I've seen. And I knew after the bowl game against Wisconsin, I'm like, okay, Nussmeier, he's going to be great this year. And I'm not saying he's going to be a first-round pick, but, I mean, you can see the work that he's put in, and I'm happy that he didn't leave and he's waited his turn. And, I mean, we've seen it throughout the years at LSU, all these quarterbacks. I mean, having to wait their turn. I mean, when you have a room, for instance, let's go back in time, like, DeMarcus, Marcus Randall, Matt Flynn. Matt Flynn had to wait his turn, and it worked out fairly well that 2007 season. And I think, Garrett Nussmeier, with all the pieces around him, Aaron Anderson, Kyron Lacey, you got Josh Williams coming back, you got Caleb Jackson, upcoming youngster at running back, the whole offensive line back with Will Campbell and company. Joe Sloan calling the plays. You don't really lose too much with Mike Denbrock leaving because you do have Joe Sloan, young offensive mind, and with Garrett Nussmeier at the helm. I predicted last year that LSU would win, 10 to 11 games, and they hit the under for me, which I was very, very upset about because I thought they could have went and won 10 games, but they just missed the mark. I think this year, if LSU has that top 50 defense that I talked about, I think you can see them win 11 games at minimum. I mean, and you now have 12 spots for the college football playoff. I think you're going to see them get one of those 12 spots. And my prediction is I think LSU falls between that number 8 spot and that number, 11 spot. I really think that's where LSU is going to be at this year with Garrett Nussmeier leading the charge. I think you're muted still, Lon.
Yes, I am muted. LSU won 10 games last year, my man.
10 games, that's including the bowl game. So technically, yeah, they finished 9-3, but bowl game they got 10. So I guess
same thing with 2022 though. So I mean, it's still a game. It's still a win. So I mean,
true.
Should we just not have the bowl game at all?
No. I love the bowl game.
We're gonna count it or not?
No, we're gonna count. Let's count the bowl game. I absolutely love bowl season. I mean, I watch a lot of them. Even outside of LSU, that's where I do a lot of my personal scouting for my NFL draft boards. Honestly, where I finish them off. But I think the whole team. I mean, even Garrett Nussmeier is saying 10 wins. 10 wins is not good enough, and I think the team knows that now because they've said it to the media members, and Brian Kelly has said it. I mean, I think 11 is going to be the number this year, and if they hit 12, then so be it. I'll be very happy with that. So I really think 11 is the mark that hopefully they hit, and I think they can hit that.
They've got to get beyond 11 wins. They've got to get in that college football playoff. They've got to compete for a national championship. I mean, this is a team. I understand we've lost a lot. We lost 3 first-round picks, a lot of guys in the NFL draft who big pieces on the team, but we can't have any excuses when we have a veteran running back in Josh Williams running behind that offensive line, the best offensive line in the country. Garrett Nussmeier's experienced enough with that offensive line in front of him, protecting him. You've got a veteran in Josh Williams at running back. You've got a stud who could be 1,500-yard back, and Caleb Jackson, who can do it as a dual threat, rushing or receiving with the football. Actually, no, a triple threat, returning in the return game as well. 467 yards from scrimmage, 5.3 average per carry last year, 4 overall touchdowns, an absolute freak. When you've got Kyron Lacey, you've got Chris Hilton Jr., you've got, just on and on and on. Aaron Anderson has no excuses not to be a superstar this year. This guy should be that second or third option at the least. Aaron Anderson is a guy who should be his name should be in headlines at least half of the Saturdays this next year when you're talking about offense. He is that good. He has that type of stunning offensive ability where you just really can't stop this guy. When he is on, when he has that speed going and you've got the right offense, you're doing these jet sweeps to him. They have no clue where he's going. He's being motioned in and out of the slot. He's in and out of the backfield. When you're moving him around, you're getting him in motion and you're giving him the football extremely quick. There's no hesitation. You give him that space and time, dude, he's going to cut people's throats. I just think this is a team. The question is going to be the defense. The question is going to be the depth all over the field. The question is going to be, is the experience, is the leadership on this team too young? Because that's the thing. We've got guys in leadership positions who are just barely entering their junior year or even sophomore season. So, is the leadership too young on this team, Logan? Is this team still a year away? Is year 3 for Brian Kelly a pipe dream as a title winning season for people to talk about?
I don't necessarily think it's a pipe dream. I really think getting to the national championship is very attainable. It all depends on, matchups and personnel, of course, but Also depends on how the team plays as a whole this year, because I mean you want to see them put it together. Yes, they look great in spring, but it's not gonna. None of that matters until the bullets are flying live against people like USC, UCLA, the Bamas of the world, and all whatsoever. And I don't think it matters how old any of these players are or classifications, like whether they're a freshman or a senior. I think if you're given a leadership role, it's for a reason. I mean, I wouldn't. Me personally, I've always had older people be like the captains of the team, and then of course when it's your turn. But I've also been in spots where there's someone like young leading the charge. I mean, we've seen like there's been teams out there that have won titles, not necessarily with an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old quarterback, but there's people that have just that leadership quality coming in as a freshman that not sometimes that them senior players don't have. So I think it would be fine. I don't think the leadership on this team is too young. I think if Brian Kelly is giving you the leadership role, then it's for a reason. That's my opinion.
Do you think? Last question here, and I'll get you out. Sorry, Logan, put you through the grinder here.
No, you're fine.
But it looks like people definitely like what we're doing here. But actually, we'll go through Chris Gosson's question here real quick. But what will Sage Ryan's role be on the defense? Chris Gosson, my man, Chris Gosson from Lafayette, the man who covers, this dude lives, breathes, and dies St. Thomas More football, and he's a longtime friend, and here he is posting this comment. What do you think Sage Ryan's role will be on this defense, Logan?
I mean, this year, I think is the year for Sage because we've seen him kind of go through like a wave. It's been inconsistent. There's been times where he'll get burned, and then there'll be times where he'll lock somebody up, and then there'll be times where he'll like let somebody go. So I think this year Sage Ryan's role is just you'll probably see a lot more nickel this year if you ask me personally, like a 4-2-5. I think Blake Baker hopefully uses Harold Perkins right, but Sage Ryan in that nickel role I think is for him. I don't necessarily think he. I mean, as a safety, I think he probably would be better suited as a true safety, but him being in that nickel role, coming down in the slot, in a manner of speaking, I think that's my hope for his role this year. I think if he puts it together consistently this year, and doesn't let people go and like finishes off tackles, I think he will be make a tremendous impact on this defense. Because I mean, in my
Right.
opinion,
Oh, sorry,
in my opinion, no, I'm sorry. If you ask me, it's all hands on deck this year for LSU's defense because there's going to be a lot of players that's going to be leaving for the draft in 2025. Harold Perkins might very well be one of them. So it's time for not only Sage Ryan to put it together, but everybody. It's all hands on deck, if you ask me.
Actually, just to inform you, Sage Ryan has been playing safety, free safety, almost every single practice. Yeah, they've had him a few times at nickel just to experiment and just to keep his feet wet there. But actually, of all starting secondary members or linebackers, Sage Ryan is the only Tiger who did not allow a touchdown last year. I can put that on the share screen as well. So I mean, he has allowed things in coverage, but most of it's been stuff that he's kept in front of him. Yeah, there's been a few that have gone behind him. Most of it was due to that terrible, terrible coverage. Here you got Sage Ryan right here, and then 0.
And then one thing I want to add, not to cut you off, I kind of do think a lot of the struggles, not only for Sage coverage wise, but the defense as a whole, was because of all the scheme in general. I mean, I don't put it all on Sage. I think I put it mostly on the defensive staff that we had and the scheme that they was running.
Good Lord, yeah.
Everything is a system. Even in the NFL, it's all about system and the right fits and putting players in position to succeed. And I don't necessarily think Matt House and the defensive staff that they had from 2022 to last year put Sage in positions to win. And like I said, I'm not putting that all on Sage's shoulders. It's just from my own eyes watching on TV and watching film, it was just inconsistent at times. But like I said, not putting it all on him. Schematically, I think it could have been better. So I'm hoping now him being that safety, that makes me happy because, like I said, I haven't been able to go out to the practices and watch. Being located in closer to New Orleans than Baton Rouge, which is kind of a hike for me at the moment. So
he had
him,
3 interceptions on Nuss in a single practice, Sage Ryan. So
wow,
he's been
that's
doing
great news.
he's been doing pretty damn good. And Blake Baker, one of the first players he mentioned in defensive press conference for Blake Baker was Sage Ryan, and called him a turnover machine. So things are looking good for where Sage Ryan is. Cole Adams, King Cole says, Lon, so enjoying you and Logan. Y'all make a good team. Thank you, brother. King Cole, well, we're definitely going to have Logan on as many times as he would like because we love Logan. We love having him on. We love talking to this guy. Logan, we're going with the page of LSU football is turning. The chapter is turning to now where we're in kind of that summer kind of hazy period where you can't really tell where this team is going to go. There's some weird questions in the air. What is the number one burning question for you about LSU going into this season and their chance for national championship dominion?
Not to be repetitive, but it's of course got to be the defense. I mean, you've seen it probably in practice. I've seen it at the spring game, but that's just the biggest question mark to me is even with Blake Baker, how is this team going to be week one against the USC Trojans when they play later in the fall? I mean, for later this year in September. That's the biggest question I have and concern I have is the defense. I'm not worried about the offense because the offense has it put together. I'm not worried about Nuss and all of them at all. They're fine in my opinion. It's just the defense for me.
I think you're going to actually see the offense be a concern because I think things like having a few guys who aren't as big of a weapon as they could be, having guys not making plays on third down, you're relying too much on one or two guys. Those type of things are a big deal. And I think we can't just overlook the offense like, oh, they're going to be good. They're going to be fine. We got this O-line. We got Lacey's going to be the next neighbors. We can't just settle on stuff like that. I've got to see this offense supporting us in the best way possible. Nuss has proven it for me. I think you've seen his pocket manipulation, the way he's running away from pressures. He uses the pressure against the players to throw it beyond them into the gap they just left. Like he is absolutely picking apart defenses and even his own defense in practice from the pocket, outside of the pocket, extending plays. You've seen Nuss doing things that LSU fans would have been drooling for Nuss to be doing in 2021, 2022. Well, you're getting it now in 2024. He's going to be the starter. He looks like there were so many questions and doubts about him throwing the interceptions and all this stuff. I think he's completely solved that. But for me, you still have to worry about the offense finding it all together, getting their feet wet, finding every fiber of what this offense could be. Joe Sloan, Cortez Hankton, maybe they can even be better than Mike Denbrock. They'll definitely be less conservative offensively. So you're definitely going to see a lot more attack-minded offense with these guys. You're probably right, Logan. We probably have nothing to worry about with them. The offense is still kind of something I want to see come to fruition, though. I still am concerned about it just because it is football. But the defense, for me, you're right. The defense has got to be the concern. No matter what you see, no matter how well you feel about it, no matter how much you believe in the talent there, no matter how much you think Baker and Davis and all these guys are going to put the right guys in the right places, it's still you half of like 3/4 of this defense last year were on the worst defense in program history. We have to see it come to fruition, even though we know it was most likely just the coach. We know there was some talent worries as well. For me, I don't think that's going to be a worry this year. The worry for me is going to be depth to withstand 15 possible games this season, 16, 17 games even this season. That, for me, especially the defensive line, is the concern. But Logan, we're going to be talking even more about all this stuff because we're going to have you back on We absolutely love that you've come on with us this time. Absolutely, really appreciate your time. Everyone, check out Logan's YouTube channel right there. YouTube.com, Logan Graffia 57 at Logan Graffia 57. Follow him on Twitter. If you just type in Logan Graffia, you will find him. We're following him as well. We are following him. We're subscribing to him. If you like our stuff, follow him, subscribe him too. Support our brother Logan right now when he needs it, because this guy is kicking ass and taking names, and we just feel like there's a lot of good stuff for you in the future, Logan, and we just are glad you're hanging in there, and you're just keep fighting, man.
Thank you for having me online. I always appreciate talking with you in DMs, even on the Twitter walls and interactions, all of that. I appreciate you coming on my show not too long ago. Just thank you for all that you do for me and all of that.
Bro, you do a lot for me, just being a friend, being someone to talk to. You have no idea how much I love talking LSU and talking just really life, anything with you, my man. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for your time, brother. And we're going to be talking very soon. I know we're going to be having you on if you want to as many times as possible.
I look forward to it. I'll be watching every single LSU game this year. You know me. I'll be happy to come on.
Logan, have a good night, brother. Thank you.
You too, Lon. Thank you.
That was Logan Graffia, our good friend Logan Graffia from Sports Etouffe'S. Support him and check out his stuff right there on YouTube. Check out his stuff on Twitter. We're following him. We're subscribing to him. Check out his stuff. Everybody, thank you so much for checking out this show. We're going to be doing more of this type of content. If you like this, buckle up. More is on its way. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gals.